Thanks again for being with us here live at the Texas State Capitol. I'm Will Dupree. Now, this session, lawmakers filed around 50 bills either sparked by or following KXAN investigations on a wide range of topics from schools and healthcare to criminal justice and even constitutional law. KXAN investigator Josh Hinkle is here to talk about the bills that have now advanced to the governor's desk.
We've had a lot to track, right? You just said 50.
Yes, that's quite a few.
We've tried to keep up with all of them during the session for you. Luckily, some of them have kind of filtered out, so we've been able to see what's happened with them. Two bills that did relate to the state's do not hire registries did make it to the governor. He's already signed SB 1437 into law, allowing the Texas Juvenile Justice Department to designate former employees or volunteers permanently ineligible for certification if they engage in conduct that threatens juvenile safety. The other he's expected to sign is SB 571, which expands the Texas Education Agency's authority to investigate volunteers and third-party contractors who work on school campuses and are accused of misconduct. Now, part of Senate Bill 1, the budget bill sent to the governor, includes a change to the state's Crime Victims Compensation Fund, which pays victims and their loved ones for recovery costs and other things like funeral expenses. It requires the Attorney General's office, which manages the fund, to give a more accurate picture of how quickly victims are paid and how well the program is working. After we discovered a flawed data formula was showing a much shorter wait time, which was actually, on average, up to 8 months for a payment. The new law now aims to have that happen in under 90 days if it goes through. Another bill signed by the governor that will impact the Attorney General's office again is SB 1403, dealing with the agency's child support division. It allows the AG to speed up procedures to cut down on unnecessary delays in delivering child support payments. The agency will also now be able to get information directly to families at courthouses and on the AG's website. And a measure pushing Botox patient safety and transparency did make it to the governor's desk, but it won't be moving forward into law because he vetoed it today. Senate Bill 378 aimed to prohibit barbers, cosmetologists, and estheticians from administering Botox and other injectables unless they were licensed or authorized to give the shots. It also would have given the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation more disciplinary authority over those professionals. And in his veto, the first, might I mention, of a Senate bill this session, Governor Abbott called the measure unnecessary and overly burdensome for business in Texas.
Okay, so thanks for catching us up with that. But speaking of patient safety, there was another bill sparked, excuse me. There was another bill sparked by some of your investigations about hospital security. What was the update about that?
Well, you might have heard us use the word bollard this session a little bit if you've seen any of our KXAN investigations. Yes, this was called the Bollard Bill, and what it really did was aim to require security barriers at all entrances to hospitals statewide. The bill was filed after our coverage of a deadly crash into an Austin ER last year, which led to a local law here in Austin requiring those security devices at all new hospitals in the city. The bill, however, met heavy resistance from the Texas Hospital Association, largely over costs, even as lawmakers used our team's data to show the frequency of these kinds of crashes into medical centers. We've now tracked more than 580 in the last decade nationwide, many of those right here in Texas, but the author of SB 660 says he plans to refile next session. Another medical-related bill sparked by our reporting would have expanded the use of medical examiners for death investigations in more counties across Texas. It came after we revealed most counties don't have medical examiners, doctors trained for that very purpose, and instead rely on elected justices of the peace who have little expertise in this area. Now, SB 1370 did die, along with many other bills, at a midnight House deadline last week, just one step away from the governor's desk, but its sponsor tells us he plans to call for an interim charge to study how to attract more doctors with this expertise to fill the growing need in Texas ahead of the next session. Also looking ahead to next session, the author of House Bill 1738 says he plans to refile his legislation that aimed to repeal the state's unconstitutional ban on homosexual conduct. Our analysis shows since the 1980s, there have been at least 60 attempts to do just that, most of those since the U.S. Supreme Court's 2003 ruling struck down the law as unenforceable. HB 1738, which was filed after our outlaw investigation, made it further in the legislative process than any of those past bills. Critics say leaving the old law on the books allows for police and policymakers' misinterpretation of it. And I must say that many of these bills that we've been talking about today and that we've tracked through this session came because of tips that viewers at home sent us. So if you think you have something that we should investigate that should come before the legislature next session, send us an email at reportit@kxan.com.
Absolutely. Well, you all can read more about that on our website in the investigative section of KXAN.com. We'll be right back after this.